Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the OSHDP Housing Talks. This is the online business meeting and industry forum of the Organization of Socialized and Economic Housing Developers of the Philippines. But before we officially begin our program, we would just like to ask everyone to observe some moments of silence and offer our prayers for all of the people affected by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Heavenly Father, Creator of all things, we humble ourselves before you and submit to your most holy will, especially during these trying times. We thank you for the gift of life, family, and friends. We ask pardon for our shortcomings and plead for more time to make amends.
We pray for the cure of the sick and an end to this virus. And most especially, we pray for the health workers, the doctors, nurses, and all those working in the hospitals who are putting their lives on the line for our sake.
We thank you for their heroic service, for their sacrifice to risk their lives for others, for their selflessness to take care of people as if they're a family of their own, and for their care and compassion to attend to the needs of patients at all costs. Protect them from the virus and embrace them with your love so that they will not feel afraid and alone as they carry out their duties.
We also ask for the mantle of your protection for the families of our health workers who have made the unselfish sacrifice of lending to us the pride of their families and most beloved ones.
And when this is over, we earnestly pray that you shower upon them all the blessings that they have bestowed on many. Let their works continue to prosper, their goodness multiplies, and the happiness and joy that they've brought to patients return to them 100-fold.
We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Again, good afternoon and welcome to everyone. Before we start, we would just like to remind everyone the house rules for our program as we go through it. First, except those of our resource persons, panelists, and key officials of OSHDP, the participants' videos and microphones are muted by default. Virtual crowd shot will be taken with everyone during the meeting later on. And then we encourage you to turn on your camera during our online photo op later. Second, we request everyone to reflect your real name on your handle or your account here on Zoom so we can easily identify and admit you in the room. We also would like to encourage everyone to use the chat box when asking questions, especially during the talk of our guest speakers, so as not to interrupt the meeting mid-flow. During the open forum, we also would like to ask everyone to use the reaction function here on Zoom. And you may click thumbs up or you may use the raise hand function if ever you would like to ask a question to one or both of our guest speakers. When asking questions during the open forum, please state your name, affiliation, company or organization, and the name of the person or speaker whom you wish to address because we have multiple guest speakers for this afternoon. And we would like to ask everyone to please observe decorum at all times. For those in the waiting room, we would like to ask to kindly reflect your real name on your handle so we can identify you and admit you in the room. So today's housing talks is an opportunity for us to learn how the government's key shelter agencies are taking charge in generating additional funds for affordable housing, especially in the time of pandemic. And we're very fortunate we're very fortunate to have as guests the top officials of two key shelter agencies which will be introduced later on. Before we go to our first part of the program, we would just like to acknowledge our national board officers present here, beginning with our chairman of the board, Mr. Mars Mendoza, our national president, Mr. Gino Olivares, Mr. Charles Tan, Ms. Fiona King, Ms. Rosabel Villanueva, Mr. Fernand Imperial, and Ms. Nicole Chowa. So to begin our program, I would like to call on our national president, Ms. Gino Olivares, to give us a welcome message. Sir Gino.
NHMFC President Carlos Luis Rabat, Ms. Maria Luisa Favela, from SHFC President Attorney Arnolfo Ricardo B, Treasury of SHFC Jason Yap, Ruben Lasset, Senior VP, Land Bank Officers Lady Ramos and team, and fellow housing stakeholders. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's episode of OSHDP Housing Talks on the topic of fueling housing finance through government securitization. As it is, the government is hard-pressed in allocating the yearly government budget. It is estimated that the housing gets an average of budgetary allocation of less than 1% of the gross domestic product. This is deemed and proven less than sufficient to meet the desired housing output. The current pandemic has further complicated the situation. Fortunately, our guests today represent two institutions, enabled by their mandates to source funds from the market by leveraging their mortgage assets through securitization, Investopedia defines securitization as a process of taking a liquid asset or group of assets and through financial engineering, transform these into an instrument called security. A typical example of securitization is a mortgage-backed security that is that is secured by mortgages. Our esteemed guests, who will be properly introduced later on, will enlighten us on these. On one hand, the Social Housing Finance Corporation, headed by its president, Attorney Arnolfo Ricardo B, the lead government agency mandated to undertake social housing for organized communities, is reported to be securitizing its mortgage portfolio to generate additional funding for the implementation of its flagship initiative, the Community Mortgage Program. On the other, the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, or the NHMFC, headed by Honorable Carlo Luis P. Rabat, has the mandate of, and I quote, increasing the availability of affordable housing loans to finance the Filipino home buyer acquisition of housing units through the development and operation of a secondary market for home mortgages. A news report says, and I quote, the securitization program of the NHMFC is not only focused on enhancing its liquidity, but is also aimed at promoting environment protection. This is through the so-called Balay Verde bonds. Correlating to this, I wish to mention that among OSHDP's 6-point shelter agenda is helping promote sustainable housing finance. Without much ado, I am honored to welcome our OSHDP member participants and friends as we ask our guests. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, President Gino. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another Housing Talks. I'm Fiona King, and I will be your moderator for today. So this will be an interesting afternoon as we are going to talk about fueling housing finance through government securitization. Now, we all know that securitization is another important tool for us developers if we want to cash in ahead of our projects. So We acknowledge it as a tool. I mean, the progress it will be able to afford us developers and as one industry. And that way it will grant us a multitude of options, not to have our cash flow, no, so that our dependence towards some financing institution, it will be spread out. So because as developers, what we do is that our development is really capital intensive, no? So we buy the land, we have our permits approved, we develop it, we build a house, and then we sell it. So usually it will take us around 2 to 3 years, no, to get our returns. And anyway, this afternoon we have two of the top officials in the financing housing industry who will share to us their ongoing securitization programs. And we look forward to gaining insights and creating discussions on how collectively we can work together towards our common goal of making affordable housing accessible, no, and affordable. So without much further ado, I would like to call on our first speaker this afternoon, National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation President, Mr. Carlos Luis P. Rabat. Has a long record in public service and immersion in housing and social amelioration programs, having served elective positions as mayor of the city of Mati of Davao Oriental from 2013 to 2019, and vice mayor immediately prior to becoming its chief executive officer. So throughout his term of office, the city government of Mati received several notable awards, no, from the DILG and from the national government agencies. President Rabat is an advocate of shelter initiatives. He prioritized as a flagship programs the need to address the plight of around 17,000 families in Mati City, considered as low income, informal settlers, and those residing in danger zones. So some of his accomplishments were being able to plan and source the funding requirement for the acquisition and development of 50-hectare housing land development intended to serve as relocation sites, and establishing a housing development program that benefited both the low and middle income constituents, including other qualified government employees. Prior to becoming vice mayor and mayor, President Rabat also served as Davao Oriental board member for 2 terms. He chaired the Provincial Committee on Housing and Urban Development, Committee on Energy, and Committee on Peace and Order during his terms as provincial board member. He also worked in the private sector after graduating from the Ateneo de Davao University in the year 1988. So he was a technical staff and program analyst in SGV. And he also worked in the corporate planning departments of Crown Fruits and at Anflow Management and Investment Corporation as technical and project analyst. So I would like to welcome President Carlo Rabat.
Thank you, Ms. Fiona King, for your very kind introduction. Good afternoon to our Mr. Marcelino Mendoza, Chairman of the OSHDP Board, Mr. Paolo Giovanni Olivares, the OSHDP National President, of course, to Attorney Arnolfo Ricardo B, SHFC President. Actually, he's my schoolmate in Ateneo de Davao High School. And of course, a respected former councilor in my wife's family's district in Davao City. And to all our online participants in the OSHDP Housing Talks, and of course also my Vice President of Securitization Group in National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, VP Luisa Favila is also here. So I hope you are all in good spirits. So sa makautro pa, sa mga makasabot sa inyo, mayang hapon sa atong tanan. I am honored to be with you all today and be given the opportunity to introduce and present the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation's and its core programs, our 4 housing loan receivable programs, as well as its value to you as our partners in the housing industry. Affordable housing is a fundamental need. We see this as our primary responsibility to bring programs that enable every Filipino to own a home. Together with you in this commitment to the housing sector, we should play our indispensable part as partners in fulfilling this basic need of each and every Filipino and of each and every human being for that matter. In order to strengthen this partnership further and enlighten you once again on the role of NHMFC in the housing sector vis-a-vis the SHFC, Pag-ibig Fund, and the National Housing Authority, VP Luisa Favila of Securitization Group will walk you through, sa mga millennials, carry lang, how the NHMFC plays a vital and unique role in our housing cycle. So in this presentation, VP Favila will illustrate to you the 4 core programs of National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, our business model, and how we play our roles, as she will discuss the issuances that will be relevant to us as committed partners towards our common goal. So VP Luisa, if you are already ready, please carry on. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will present to you NHMFC's business and its programs. Next slide, please. NHMFC's mandate under Presidential Decree number 1267, dated December 21, 1977, is to develop and provide for a secondary home mortgage market charged with the development of a system that will attract private institutional funds into long-term housing mortgages. Guided and driven with that mandate, NHMFC envisions, as part of the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, to be the major player in providing housing finance through the strengthening of the secondary mortgage market. Through the years, NHMFC has developed financial instruments that enhance liquidity in the housing sector. But how do we do that? Next slide, please. The NHMFC has 4 distinct programs that provides assurance of immediate liquidity for the originators, developers, and other public and private lending institutions. This provides them with fresh funds or additional funds to help them increase their home production. These housing finance programs cater to the growing needs of the different segments of our society. Next slide, please. Among our programs are the following. We have home program or purchase of originated economic low-cost housing receivables. This is 4.7% for the 7 years and 6.2% for 30 years. Next is shelter. Shelter is a socialized housing loan takeout receivables up to 750,000. As defined by DSUD, the vertical housing project maximum is 750,000 and the horizontal housing project maximum is 580,000. For us, we have the 3% for the first 5 years and 5.5% on the remaining years with a maximum term of 30 years. We have 2 loans for this. We have the contract to sell. We do withholding of around 6%, and we have the real estate mortgage. Our loan to value ratio is 100%, no equity requirement, no seasoning requirement. And for our next program is the Maginhawang Buhay sa Bahay or the reverse mortgage program, which is up to 3 million pesos. Payout is 60% of appraised value of up to 3 million. Interest ranges from 4% to 8%. And then the last program is the Balay Verde building, which means building eligible resilient dwelling for everyone up to 3 million pesos. The loanable amount is equivalent to 100% of appraised value up to 3 million. Interest rates is from 3% to 6% with a term of 5 years to 30 years. Next, please. Next slide. Okay. And then we have here the business model of NHMFC. The home buyers buy houses from the primary market which are the originators, developers, public or private lending institutions. NHMFC purchases the housing loan receivables from these primary lenders to serve as an asset pool for securitization. The housing loan receivables bought by the NHMFC provides fresh funds to the primary lenders. These new funds will enable them to build more housing units. NHMFC, in return, will pool these housing loan receivables and package them into marketable securities. We call them buy bonds, and for now, we have these balay bonds, and sell them to the capital market. In this diagram, NHMFC links the housing sector and the capital market for a sustainable housing finance. Next, please. Okay. For our securitization issuances, next slide, please. Our maiden securitization issuance was made in March 23, 2009, with an issue size of 2.06 billion. It was voted as the best securitization by the SHFC Awards in 2009 in Hong Kong. This was entered into by our arranger underwriter Standard Chartered in this category. For our next issuance is the Bahay Bonds 2. This is the first ever retail and first to be listed under the Philippine Dealing Exchange in August 17, 2012, with an issue size of 603.74 million. The 300 million of this 603.74 was the one listed in the Philippine Dealing Exchange, which was offered to the retail investors with an interest rate of 4.8%. And this was awarded as the Innovative Listed Corporate Bond Issue of the Year by the Philippine Dealing System Holdings Corporation and Subsidiaries Group Awards night on February 28, 2013. Next slide, please. For our third issuance, we have the Balay Bonds 1, which was issued on December 9, 2019, with an issue size of 270.25 million. This started the series of Balay Bonds issuances focused on low-cost and socialized housing receivables. Balay stands for Building Adequate, Livable, Affordable, and Inclusive Filipino Communities. Launched by the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development and key shelter agencies. For our next issuance is the Balay Bonds 2, which was issued last December 29, 2020, with an issue size of 319.32 million. Next slide, please. For our upcoming issuances, next slide, please. We have the Balay Shelter asset-backed securities, which will be issued by third quarter or fourth quarter of 2021 this year. The securitized note shall be backed by around 715 million low delinquency socialized housing loan receivables purchased from Pag-ibig in 2019. And this will be offered to the real estate developers as alternative mode of compliance to the Balanced Housing Development Program. The proceeds will be used to purchase new socialized housing receivables from developers or originators through its housing loan receivables purchase program and to help address the housing backlog of the Philippines. Next slide, please. Another one is NHMFC is the financial advisor to Social Housing Finance Corporation, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of NHMFC. It will issue Balay CMP asset-backed securities by this third quarter of 2021. And with an issue size of 2.7 billion of community loan receivables under the Community Mortgage Program of SHFC. And this will also be offered to real estate developers as alternative mode of compliance to the Balanced Housing Development Program. Proceeds will be used to purchase community loans under the Community Mortgage Program. And for our slogan, before I end my presentation, every Filipino deserves a home and it should never take too long. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. If you could hold off your questions for now, no, we'd like to move on to our next speaker. This afternoon, right after President Kabling's presentation, we will have our open forum. So after graduating with a degree in English language from the University of the Philippines in 1989, he took up law at the Ateneo de Davao University in 1995. So in 2000, he headed the prosecution and enforcement unit of the Securities and Exchange Commission in Davao City before serving as counselor from 2004 to 2013. So it was during this time that he started championing the improvement of access of housing rights. After his successful stint in public office in Davao City, he was appointed by President Rodrigo Duterte to head the Social Housing Finance Corporation in 2017. So upon assuming leadership, he focused on the forging of strong partnerships with local government units and all stakeholders in the housing sector for the provision of affordable, resilient, and sustainable shelter solutions for low-income Filipinos. So, as a result, it was nothing short of spectacular. So to date, SHFC has more than 100 LGU partners across the country in implementing the agency's flagship housing initiative, the Community Mortgage Program. Without further ado, I present to you Attorney Arnolfo Ricardo B, the President of Social Housing Finance Corporation.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Fiona King.
Afternoon.
Very nice introduction. To Sir Mars Mendoza, the chairman of OSHDP, to Mr. Gino Olivares, the president of OSHDP, the directors and members of OSHDP who are here with us, to Mr. Carlos Rabat, my schoolmate in Atty. Davao High School, the president of National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, and to his officers who are with him. To my officers also who are with me, I saw the name of Mr. Jojo Carandang, our Vice President for Planning, and my other officers, I think BP Jason, our Treasury Vice President, and SVP Ruben Lasset, our SVP for Corporate Governance, and the rest, the guests in today's Housing Talk. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. As you all know, Social Housing Finance Corporation is the youngest and the smallest shelter agency attached to the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. It's only about 17 years old, and its mandate is carved out from National Mortgage Finance Corporation as a subsidiary. We are in fact registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. We are a hybrid government corporation. Our mandate is we're carved out purposely to supervise and implement the community mortgage program. It is community-based. We offer loans to organized and formally registered community associations. Social housing started with financing on-site communities, so to prevent demolition and evictions. So it was very challenging for the first 10 to 15 years of SHFC, financing on-site communities, because we have to do re-engineering, realignment, reblocking, and we were successful. But reviewing the mandate, our mandate says we are supposed to do resettlement and subsequent development of the sites and home development of our member beneficiaries. That's why social housing is now going into complete package. We offer loan for land acquisition, site development, and house construction. So we have tried to evolve our CMP, and we now have 12 modalities on how we implement the CMP. We still do on-site for real on-site communities. We do culturally sensitive CMP for IP communities. We do industrial CMP in partnership with employers for the housing of the employees. And more importantly, and we're focusing on this right now, we do turnkey CMP. So for this afternoon, we really have two very, about three very important message and purpose in joining this forum, and that's why we're very happy, that you have us here, you invited us here, because we really need the help of the private sector, more particularly and especially the OSHDP people. Why? First, we all know, as I mentioned earlier, that the budget for housing given by the government is less than 1% of the total national budget. And yet, the mandate is so huge, so big, and so burdensome. We are supposed to, as much as possible, eliminate, eradicate, or reduce the homelessness problem of our community. Right now, we have about 6.5 million Filipinos who are considered homeless, and that number is increasing by 100 plus thousand a year. So how do we able to catch up? Records would show that the combined housing production of the four shelter agencies under the DSUD right now, Pag-ibig, NHA, SHFC, and National Mortgage Finance Corporation, would only be 100,000 to 150,000 every year. So it's just enough, to catch up with the increasing number annually, and yet we're leaving the backlog of 6.5 million. So how do we address this, given the meager budget being given to us by government? So we have about already 25 billion account portfolio, and that's why we thought of securitizing, our account portfolio, and that's why we are calling on you, partners in the private sector, that you might be able to help us generate the necessary and the needed funds for us to be able to continue doing our mandate. It's going to be a give and take relationship, because the CMP Balay bonds would actually be also, as stated earlier, would also serve as compliance to the housing balance requirement by our required by law from our developers. And can we proceed? So this is it. We are floating this bonds by August this year. May I request for the next slide? So the Balay CMP bonds, this will be the outline. Please proceed. So the Balay CMP bonds will be backed by a pool of CMP loan portfolio. It is an alternative source of capital for the funding requirements of social housing community-driven programs to address the housing backlog in the Philippines. The bonds will be issued to at least 3, but not more than 19 real estate developers by third quarter to fourth quarter of 2021. Why up to 19? Because this is not going to be a license as investment portfolio. This is not going to be sold in a big market, because we are just limiting this to developers. And the purchase of the bonds is an alternative means of compliance with the Balanced Housing Act, required by the revised RR Section 3, 1820 of Republic Act 7279 as amended by Republic Act number 10884. So as we all know, subdivision developers are required to provide 15% of its housing project for housing balance to do socialized housing, and condominiums are required to do 5% of its project for socialized housing. Next slide, please. Now, the DSUD issued already the Department Order 2020-011, series of 2020, where it states that the purchase of the bonds issued by National Housing Mortgage Finance Corporation, or SHFC, for the purpose of raising funds for development of new socialized housing projects shall be deemed as full compliance of developers to the Housing Balance Development Program. Next slide, please. The purchase of the bonds from SHFC provides real estate developers the following: full and immediate compliance with the balanced housing requirement, low risk investment, because this is backed by tangible assets that allows recoverability of the fund, and it's convenient and cheaper form of compliance, and it's easier. No? It's convenient and easier and faster form of compliance. And the Balay bonds of about 2 billion will be issued to 19 residential developers only. The target date of the issuance, as I said, I repeat, will be third quarter of 2021 this year. Next slide, please. Now, who are the partners of this transaction? No? Of course, we are the issuer, and National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation is the transaction advisor. The Land Bank of the Philippines is our program arranger. For tax and legal counsel, we have the Puno Jacinto Santos Law Office and the portfolio auditor, PwC. The rating agency is the Phil Ratings. The special purpose trust is a DBP, and the trustee is PNB. Now, on the details of the nature of the bond, I think we have our land bank representative who could actually explain further the details of the bond, because they're actually the program arranger. May I request, with due permission from our host, that we recognize the representative of land bank to explain further and in detail the nature of the security, the bonds that we are going to float this August, more or less August this year. Land bank, please. Next slide, please. So, social housing has already provided security of tenure to community-driven programs of 416 informal families through 3,073 projects. And we have, as I said, a portfolio of about 25 billion pesos. Next slide, please. That will be all. And may I request now the land bank representative to discuss in details the bond that we will be floating this August 2021. Land bank? Is land bank with us? Over here. Mr. Gabriel Salcor, land bank representative. Anyway, may we request our Vice President for Treasury, or SBP Ruben Lasset, to explain the nature and the details of the securities if land bank is not, probably has a problem with connectivity. Mr. Ruben Lasset, please, or Mr. Jason Yap. Wala rin?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, sir. Our plan is to float around 2.7 amount of assets, no? Class A is about 2 billion 050, and Class B is around 686 million. So a total of 2.7 36 million billion. So
2.7.
Net issuance is around 1.9 billion. We're estimating that. So it should be at a discount. It will be issued at a discount or 90% redemption value for 5 years. So that's all, sir.
So in addition, there's Class B and Class A and Class B. No? So Class A is we sell that to the market. Now for Class B, we also endorse that to our trustee and to the arranger, because that will serve as additional security in case of failure of collection from our what is this? Our guarantee, no, the assets that we are guaranteeing, the bonds that we are going to float. It's redeemable within 5 years, but since it is compliance and as a form of corporate social responsibility, we call on the developers that we will redeem it only for 90% of its value. And we appeal to you because we believe this is more convenient and easier and faster for you, because rather than you comply through project implementation, not under the non-recoverable components of a housing subdivision development, it will take you time, or rather than do it through the trust fund, that is also another mode of compliance. We're offering this because SHFC is in need of funds for people who belong to low income bracket. And you know naman, ang clientele ng SHFC belong to the low income bracket. And in fact, we are in fact compelled to reduce our interest rate. We have actually socialized housing rate. We offer 6% for those with regular income. For those with intermittent income, seasonal income, we offer 4% or 4.5% annual interest based on diminishing balance, and 2% for those who really need help. So we even, in addition to 2%, we even provide them livelihood component to just really to be inclusive, because we're saying social housing is really offering fair shelter solution. We want to be flexible. We want to offer affordable, responsive, and of course, inclusive housing provision to the homeless and the underprivileged Filipinos. So our appeal in this forum is, this is the bond we are floating. It is your compliance. So we are hope for your support, and that we will be able to raise at least 2 billion. And we would like to stress that we are into complete package, meaning, and it's going to be turnkey CMP. So second appeal to you, you might want to join us, to join our project and our program. You can do the housing provision, the socialized housing provision. We do it turnkey, meaning for every unit you complete, we pay you. So this is a better approach because we buy the houses you produce in volume, in bulk. And many developers would say it's so capital intensive, as what Ma'am Fiona said earlier. It's so capital intensive. That's why we're saying let's modify it, the turnkey. For every 100 with certificate of occupancy from the local government, with acceptance from the community, and satisfaction from our engineering group, we pay the first 100. Then every 100, we issue letter of guarantee for the first 100, and of course we assess the partnership, the relationship, how the houses were produced, and we issue another 100, subsequent 100, and 100 letter of guarantee for every 100 thereafter. So that is our second announcement and appeal. And third, we're also working with the SHUD, of course, because we're saying this is also a form of socialized housing production, and therefore, and it is turnkey. And the partners act here as developer and not just mere contractor, because it's complete package. So probably we are working on it. We're working with the SHUD right now that it should also be utilized. Now, in addition to that, it should also be utilized as compliance to housing balance requirement. So there are two modes which we're offering to you now. First, on compliance. First is on the CMP bonds. Second, if you partner with us on a turnkey basis, we pay you for every 100. We issue the letter of guarantee. That could also be used as compliance to housing balance requirement. So that will be all. No, we will be direct to the point. Again, I'd like to stress we are floating these bonds. We are appealing for your help. Second, we are into turnkey. We could be partners. And third, we are working that it shall also serve as your compliance to the housing balance requirement. Now, we are also we've discussed with Securities and Exchange Commission and this SHUD, why only 19? And there are about hundreds of developers in the country. So that's why we also made an arrangement that Housing Developers Association, if you pull your resources together, could act as one juridical person and could act as one investor, and you could be counted as one among the 19. So if you have about 100 members who need compliance, and you just pull your resources together, probably out of the 1.9 billion to 2 billion, you would like to buy the 1 billion, then you can pool your resources together and you're counted as one among the 19 investors. So we'll not go beyond the 19 allowed investors for exemption to many licensing requirements of the Securities and Exchange Commission. So I think that will be all for this afternoon. Thank you very much. My Executive Vice President is already here, Attorney Jun Pefayot. He will be joining me in answering your questions later. And the rest of my officers are also here. So we will be welcoming questions. Maraming salamat po. And we hope that this is going to be the beginning of a new kind of relationship with Social Housing Finance Corporation and the private sector, especially the members of OSHDP. Maraming salamat. Magandang hapon po sa lahat.
Thank you, Attorney Cabling and President Rabat. And I learned so much from Attorney Cabling's presentation, especially the turnkey. No, so actually, basically, parang it's like SHFC and National Home are like an aggregator, no, and or a secure mediator, ganon, right? For securitization. So basically, you will look for banks, underwriters, financing institution to be able to raise the funds, no, for us developers, correct? But anyway, before anything else, I would like to call on anyone from the board. Maybe you have any questions that you would like to ask. I know we have officers here from Land Bank, and you have some questions, clarifications. Maybe if you want to hold on. Attorney Patrick, can you check our chat box for any? I think we have some questions here.
Yes, hello, good morning po. There is one from Giocel Olanday, Balay Bonds. He is asking po that for Balay Bonds as balanced housing compliance for developers, when developers invest, will their bonds investments also be repaid and also earn interest?
Shall I answer the question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
As I said earlier, it is redeemable in 5-year term. And it's by our loan portfolios. It will be managed by the groups, no? As you said, you've seen earlier, there's PNB, DBP, Land Bank, and several other partners. But we appeal to you that let it be a social corporate responsibility. After all, you do compliance in another way, in another modality, in another form. You do on-site development for non-recoverable components of a housing project. You don't recover your investment. Or if you put the money in trust account, as we are doing now in trust fund, you pay the fee, monthly fee, until the money is utilized by the Department of Human Settlements. So for us, we said we do the implementation of the project for you. We identify it properly. Everything will be recorded, that it will really be placed in a socialized housing project for the poorest of the poor. And yet, you redeem after 5 years 90% of your total investment with us. So yung 10% po, we just appeal to you na social corporate responsibility lang. Tulong nyo lang din po sa mga mahihirap nating mga kababayan. So, yun po.
All right. Okay. Well, of course, the beauty
Can I
about...
also add? Excuse me,
yes.
Ms. Fiona,
Yeah.
can I also add?
Yes.
Regarding kasi yung tawag din sa amin, we will also be issuing this third quarter rin ng NHMFC ng Balay Bonds rin kasi, but ours is Balay Shelter ABS. No? So same naman din, it's also for a content, kagaya nung sa SHFC, it will be also considered as the alternative mode of compliance sa Balanced Housing Development Program. So more or less the same din. No?
Yeah. Very good. Now we have more options tayo mga developers. We have a question here for Attorney Cabling. Your office has been actively building linkages with LGUs all over the Philippines now amidst the pandemic. So how many LGUs have you already signed and MOA, and with how many families or housing units are we projecting to be a product of this memorandum of agreement?
We have signed already 100. We partnered already with 100 LGUs, and many of them already submitted their proposal on how we can partner. One example is Bacoor in Cavite. We brought to Bacoor 1,440 informal families from the waterways of Metro Manila, because we were given about 15 billion from the 50 billion fund for families in the waterways during the time of President Pinoy. And we brought 1,440 in Bacoor. So the mayor said, what about for our locals? So we told them that we will also build another 1,000 good units, good for 1,440. So we are building it now. We are now about 80% complete. In San Jose del Monte, Bulacan, we were able to bring there about 4,000 from the waterways of Metro Manila. So we'll be building also 4,000 for San Jose del Monte, Bulacan. For San Fernando, Pampanga, we are building for the community workers. It's a turnkey project, about 1,000 units. In Florida Blanca, Pampanga, we are building the same. In Cagayan de Oro, we had a very good model, because the property was actually owned by the local government, and the local government resold it to the community, the beneficiaries, for only 194 pesos per square meter. The acquisition cost years back, and the local government asked us to pay only the building footprints for the vertical housing, the medium-rise housing. And mind you, the site development was shouldered by the Billiard Group of Company as housing balance compliance. So it's for free. And the Billiard Group spent about 70 million for that project. And it is not recoverable. And it took them a year, a little more than a year, to finish the site development as compliance for housing balance requirement. And the building component now is being financed by SHFC as a loan for the informal communities and families. So that's a very good partnership. And that's why instead of you building, you're saying, just buy our bonds and we'll do the development and implementation for you. So you can focus on economic and high-end housing and leave the socialized housing to us as partnership. Okay?
Okay. Wow. Thank you, sir. I think I'd like to call on Mr. Fernan Imperial. I think you have a question for Mr. Rabat. Fernan?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Mr. Rabat. Good afternoon. Sir, since it's a approval from the SEC in December last year, how much po yung balay bond? How much balay bonds po have been issued? And in the event that all of the 319 million have been issued, what are the projected benefits for the investment on this program po?
As a background, based on our record, these 319 million balay bonds too, ito yung tawag sa investment instrument na to were broken down into two kinds of notes. Ito yung senior notes with a size of 150 million. And of yung subordinated notes with a size of 169 million. So yung maturity nitong bonds na to was 5 years. It's 5 years, no? So pero balik dun sa question kung already ano ba to nabenta na, no? So actually yung senior notes were already sold out. No? And what are the projected benefits for these investments? On the part of the investors, so they are guaranteed an interest income of 3.5% more or less, no, per annum during the term of this bond. And on the maturity date of the notes, they are guaranteed to get the original investment back and whatever interest is left that is due them. So secure yung investment nyo on this, no. And on the part of the NHMFC naman, we were able to convert our housing receivables, which were pooled for the issuance of these balay bonds into cash na ginamit and gagamitin to buy new housing loan receivables. And this cycle will continue in order to sustain the program by providing liquidity in the housing market. So napuntahan tayo balik para gagamitin naman natin to purchase additional housing loan receivables. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rabat.
Thank you. Thank you. So just a clarification, both SHFC and National Home are backed by Phil Guarantee. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So may I call on Sir Mars Mendoza? Sir?
Nakamute si Sir.
Sir Mars.
All right. Maybe Sir Gino, if you have questions, Sir Gino? Any clarifications from our speaker?
Good afternoon, sirs. Regarding sa how is the approval schedule for if ever the balay bonds are used for the Balanced Housing Act? Does it take long, or what's the typical turnover for that once we apply?
May you request answer from the National Mortgage Finance or from Land Bank, our arranger?
Yes, sir. May I? May I clarify your question, sir? Mr. Gini Olivares, what do you mean?
Regarding using the bonds for the Balanced Housing Act as
Yes.
Compliance. How long does it take to apply?
Oh, sir, it's like this. When SHFC or NHMFC issues the bond, we will be organizing the developers who are interested, and that on that offering period, they have to give their interest in buying the bonds on that offering period. So parang ang ibig sabihin ho niyan pag ang offering period is one week, yun yung time na dapat kayong bumili. And that during that period, yun ho yung maibibigay sa inyo magkano yung allotment nyo. Parang one-day transaction lang po kasi yan Kung 19 developers yan, 19 developers ang pagbibigyan o allotment nung i-issue ng SHFC. Parang ganun po. So immediately po yan, inire-record na ho kaagad dyan kung sino yung magiging, kung sino ho yung mga buyers noon. Sino yung mga, kasi meron ho kasing means ng parang i-Dutch auction siya. So kailangan mag-provide kayo ng inyong interest para malaman ng SHFC para ma-allocate niya sa mga developers, kasi posible ho na maraming developers dyan at meron tayong tinitignan na pricing for that issuance. So if you're interested, kunyari yung sa 10% po, 10% you will get the proceeds kasi less 10% at the redemption period. So are you willing? So magbibigay ho itong mga developers na if they are interested sa akin, kunyari ho ako isang developer, sasabihin ko, I'm interested to buy 10 million. Yung iba, at this price, willing ako na less 10% yung aking investment. Yung iba naman, hindi papayag. So magkakaroon ho ng yung parang sino ang dapat pagbigyan muna ng mga nung those interested. Kasi iba-iba ng, parang nagbibid ho. Parang nagbibid ho pag nagda-Dutch auction So, kung sino ho yung papasok dun sa requirement na yon, yun ho yung unang makakakuha until maubos yung yung issuance, yung volume ng issuance. And that would be provided to dun sa mga developers. Ganon po yung gagawin kasi. It's a Dutch auction. So, dali lang po yun na process. If you're saying that yung period na yon na kung ang binabanggit nyo is how how the developers would be getting their investment.
May I add?
Yeah.
Yeah. Madam Chair, Madam Facilitator. Well, it's immediate. The moment you buy the bond, we issue the bond. I don't know how the arranger, the land bank, will do it, but whether it will be a form of a certificate of bond certificate, or probably because we do business now electronically. I don't know how they do the recording, but it's going to be land bank that will facilitate everything. Now, compliance sourcing balance, immediate. The moment you have the bond, you can use it as compliance. So one picture is compliance. Second picture is an investment. It's redeemable in 5 years. Third picture is actually negotiable because it's a bond. Suppose you buy more, and later some of the developers would be needing compliance, and there's no available bond in the market already. So you can sell it at a premium. Or suppose you have a liquidity problem, you can sell it at a lower cost just to solve the liquidity problem to other developers. So these are the features. It's compliance, it's an investment, and it is negotiable. So immediate po lahat yun. No? So everything will just be properly recorded through our ranger, the land bank, and the money that we will be collecting as a guarantee to that will be deposited with PNB as our trustee, and everything will really be properly done para ho na maayos itong ating pag-float ng security, because this is not the first time we intend to float our bonds. We intend to do this as often as possible, to provide financing to the housing need of our Filipino families who are really homeless. And under now the DSHUD law, the shelter agencies have already a form of synergy. We do financing with Pag-ibig. Pag-ibig is doing economic and high-end. We are supposed to finance the socialized. NHA will be doing massive production, but because of the Mandanas law, I think some of the functions will be devolved to the local government. And of course, National Mortgage Finance Corporation will be doing secondary mortgage. No, so that's the reason why our bonds will be coursed through them, because they will do the secondary mortgage for us. So there's a synergy, so that there will be financing, production, and of course, the source of funding. So hopefully that will be the direction of our housing sector, and of course in partnership with all of you. No? So yung mga sinay ko nga pala kanina na mga projects with the local governments, these were just examples, but for every local government, iba-iba yung aming form of arrangement, iba-iba yung aming form of agreement. As we said, we do fair shelter solutions. Fair there is flexible. We could be very flexible kung ano yung need ng locality. So yun po. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Luisa and Attorney Cabling. In fact, I just want to share with you, securitization, somehow parang ina-advance natin, no? So it's like, I'm not sure if you're familiar, sir, with CTS financing. Some of us developers are actually doing that, no? I myself are doing that, especially now more than ever. We need that because during the lockdown, we didn't stop our construction. Everything is ongoing. So can you imagine the money poured in there in every site, and then our takeout is taking longer, no, with our some financing institution. So it's very challenging for us, and we're also thankful for the bank for offering us CTS financing. In fact, I've been getting texts now that they want to meet with SHFC and NHMFC. They're very curious about securitization and what else that you can offer to us developers here, especially na we are an economic and socialized housing developer. No? It's very challenging on our part, and majority of our OSHDP here are the top 10 Pag-ibig takeout. They're the top 10 here. So moving forward, I'd like to call on Sir Mars Mendoza. Sir?
Yeah. Good afternoon, President Rabat and President Cabling. Thank you for gracing our occasion, our housing talks here. I just want to raise a question. Some LGUs do require that the compliance be in their locality before they approve even the building permit or the development permit. Now, my question basically is, would developers have a hand in choosing where SHFC would get to, develop and build houses? Because this might be a factor in the choice of developers on what housing compliance to choose from. Because some LGUs, we all know this, do require that the socialized housing compliance be in their respective localities. Of course, some LGUs don't want that the socialized housing be in their localities. It's two extremes that we developers are facing. So that is my basic question. For example, I think the high density housing is applicable in the highly very dense areas. I don't know what your directions are in this light or in this program. Some of our developers are really in the highly urbanized or high dense areas also.
We could make that arrangement, the special arrangements, sir. We're open to that. We understand that. As in fact, yung example ko nga earlier, sinabi ko nga, yung ibang local government, if we bring in informal communities, they also want a project for their constituents. Now, when I was city councilor of Davao, I was in fact the proponent that the compliance should be in Davao, the projects in Davao. So I really understand that. So we can make that a special arrangement. Now, but for highly urbanized places, sir, if say, in Metro Manila, they want compliance also done. The money, the bond will also be expended in the city for a special project for them. But the problem is the land. So we should make them understand that the problem is the land. The cost of the land is so high. The 580,000 ceiling or 750 for vertical housing for socialized housing set by DSHUD might not be enough. So we really have to do resettlement in near city or in the periphery of the urban areas, Mr. Mendoza. So there's a problem. So we will be open to talks to the LGUs. And in fact, that was the direction of SHFC from this very short, from during this administration, that we really have to strengthen our collaboration with the local government. And in fact, now for mandanas of the Supreme Court, it has to be really done in close coordination with the LGUs. We understand that. If you buy the bond and you want a specific area where the project should be done, for that money, we are willing to make the special arrangements, sir.
Thank you for that. That clarifies a lot of maybe questions in the mind of developers.
Thank you, Sir Mars. I think we have a question here in the chat box. Do you purchase receivables? I think yes, through securitization, and we have. Can we also use bonds for BOI compliance and socialized housing requirements?
We have not finalized our talks with the BOI. No? They had an offer before for tax holidays. But, I think the housing also, but that was not finalized. Probably after this project, we might continue our discussion with the BOI. As of the moment, we have not finalized the discussion because there was an agreement from one of the shelter agencies, no? At the time, the HLRB. But now it's this should. We will see. We will open talks again with the BOI. So as of the moment, there is none yet of the moment, no? As a mode of compliance to avail of the tax holidays from BOI.
All right.
Just a comment, President Cabling. The developers also is quite sensitive to this aspect of BOI incentives, in the sense that there are projects that we have a separate compliance for DSUD and a separate compliance in order to avail of the tax incentives. It would really be best if some of the compliances would be applicable to both DSUD and BOI.
So, sir, we are we are very open to open the talks again, no? With BOI. We had that before, but it didn't materialize. Probably we would like to request you to sponsor another housing talks and inviting the
Yeah,
person.
we can do that. Our pleasure.
So we could initially.
We can also have bilateral talks.
Yeah, sir. Please, if you could facilitate with
Tripartite talks or tripartite talks for that matter.
we would appreciate it because, of course, it will actually benefit the stakeholders and partners in the industry, all of us. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyway, from the same source, no, this is the last na that I will read from the chat box. Just to clarify, Attorney Cabling, the entire bond value can be applied to the socialized housing requirement and not just the 10%.
No, it will apply to the 15% housing balance requirement for horizontal development and 5% for vertical development for condominiums. But
Okay.
the 10% actually is the discounted redemption value. So if you pay 1,000, we will redeem it only for 900 pesos. And our appeal is corporate social responsibility, tulong na lang sa mahirap. After all, who will do the dirty works for you will be the one to implement the housing component which you are supposed to do in socialized housing projects.
President Kabling, I think the question is for the 90 the whole 100% amount of the bond will be used as a socialized housing compliance.
We will use it in our community mortgage program projects.
Yes, sir. And then it will be applied to the issued socialized housing requirement as the full amount.
As a full amount.
Yes, the whole 100%.
100%. Not the
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm actually very interested to learn more about the compliance of SHFC and National Home, no? Because right now we want the LTS right away, so we are doing the escrow. No, we want everything fast.
Pwede na tayo mag-group together, Fiona.
Oo nga. But anyway, one last na talaga to from the chat box. I think this is Attorney Ray Cartojano. He's also my colleague in PAREB. He's from Jensen. What are the reasons why our housing backlogs are not solved, especially involving the poorest of the poor? Do we need better legislations? Okay.
We cannot answer the question because we've been appealing representations to the national government and to Congress, and yet housing is just given less than 1% of the national budget every year. So I think all of us should unite and make that representation to our lawmakers and our officers in the government to increase the budget for housing. So, but that is the reality. We're stating the reality that we get only less than 1%. And that's why we are just being creative and we will float the bonds from whatever portfolio we have right now.
Okay. Noted, sir. I think we have one more question from the board. We have Miss Nicole Choa. Nicole?
Thank you. With this bond being so promising as it can be an investment and a compliance, what is the current status of your high-density housing program? And so far, have you met your goals?
Out of 53 high-density housing program, I think we have completed almost all. Ang kulang na lang namin about 5, 6, 7%. 6, 7 projects, which are very problematic from the very beginning. The problem varies, no? Some are organizational, association. Some are sa location, sa chosen site. And some are to the funding requirement kasi masyadong mababa in-approve. Tapos masyadong mataas na yung ceiling at that time. No? So these are problems na natitira namin. We're trying to solve everything so we could really deliver the 100%. And in fact, about 600 million of our high-density project was already purchased by National Mortgage Finance Corporation. These are good projects, and it was already purchased, and that's the project also being used by National Mortgage for securitization to float their bonds. Then that is the guarantee, our projects. They paid us in cash already, 600 million last year as additional funding for our projects. So they're floating the bonds for themselves, but that is actually backed by the projects of Social Housing Finance Corporation.
So tuloy-tuloy po ba yung mga programa ng SHFC sa high density housing?
Yes, sir. We call it now as because there's a separate budget for the high density housing coming from the DLG fund, the 50 billion fund. But that project, that money will not be commingled with the CMP money. So that's why, as one of our modalities now for CMP, we have our vertical CMP. The one we're doing in Bacoor is vertical. We call it CMP vertical. The one we're doing in Cagayan de Oro is also vertical. The one we're doing in Pampanga is horizontal. It depends on the request and the need of the locality and the local government.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One more question from Mr. Charlie from the board. Sir?
Hi, President Rabat, President Kabling. Anyway, actually, my question is for President Kabling. I was going through your website and I saw one of your programs, which I think you initiated, which was the Grassroots Special Action Team. I think back in 2017. No, it's actually pretty awesome what you have done and where you've reached. But in light of the pandemic right now, how has that affected the team? How are you reacting to the pandemic, especially with the restrictions, reaching out to the far-flung areas to make the CMP known to the people who can utilize it?
Last year, sir, when pandemic was so concentrated in Metro Manila, our grassroots action team still go down to the communities and assess the need and talk to the communities what they need, what's the problem, with respect to the need and with respect to implemented projects, how do we improve the projects. But since now that the variants is already spreading all over the country, sir, we are using actually technologies. We ask them to connect with the communities through social media, through cell phones and everything and the like. But there are times and there are occasions and chances that they could still visit the communities. We still do, sir.
Great. I mean, I just wanted to know about it. I think it's a great program. Thank you, sir.
And in fact, sir, we want the community to feel that we just don't provide them the physical shelter. We want really to help them build sustainable communities. And that's why we put up that grassroots approach. And in fact, during the pandemic, we tried to identify some of the most vulnerable member beneficiaries of SHFC and assistance during the pandemic because they were already calling us and asking that the ayuda from the government has not yet arrived and they're already starving. And that's why SHFC has to intervene and we have to shell out an amount for assistance for those vulnerable members. And we could not afford to give all. No? And during the typhoons or the calamities, we also shell out money. During Holi, we visit them and we give at least 5,000 pesos assistance each. No? So the group will still go down. Because it is our tagline that we are saying that we just do physical shelter, we build sustainable communities at kami po ay kaagapay ng komunidad sa lahat ng panahon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Lawrence Alvarez, you have a question? Sir Lawrence?
Ako na pala. Hi, good afternoon. So my question is, as of today, NHMFC has 2 existing programs designed to serve our Filipino seniors and to help the government in promoting resiliency and sustainability in the housing sector. So one of which is the Mabuhay program. And for the 3rd quarter of 2021, you are set to enhance the program. So would you mind sharing with us the specific steps taken by the agency in order to achieve this? And particularly, what are these enhancements?
I think this is for Mr. Carlo Rabat.
Yes, okay. Well, for a start, the advanced version of the Mabuhay program, or we call it the reverse mortgage program, is already ready, no? However, to ensure its feasibility and sustainability, the team in charge of this program is just finalizing some financial projections. This will then be presented by the NHMFC management to the NHMFC board for approval. And yes, hopefully for its implementation this third quarter once approved by the board. Nevertheless, let me share with you some of the measures taken to enhance the current Mabuhay program as a result of the knowledge sharing program with the Korea. We sought the services of the actuarial science expert to develop an actuarial model to determine periodic releases to beneficiaries considering the age, property value, and mortality rates. Number two, we added to 10-year payouts. Kasi dati pag namatay yung principal beneficiary, wala na, canceled na yung loan. But now this will be a succession of beneficiaries in case of death of the principal beneficiary. And the surviving spouse will continue to receive the payouts until the account has been terminated. And third, we lowered the applicable rate for the RM beneficiaries from a term-based rate of 8% to 4%, depending on the age of the borrower, to a fixed rate of only 4% in the entire duration of the RM account. Moreover, to further enhance connection for the benefit of the program, we intend to collaborate with the Land Bank of the Philippines and develop DBP to help the National Home Mortgage Finance Corporation provide more funds to its qualified beneficiaries. And we will partner with the Office of the Senior Citizens Affairs in various local government units. So we will be able to reach its target market through partnership with the OSCA. Senior citizen naman ang target natin dito. So more or less, yun ang ating fund dito. Yung mga ginagawa natin for this enhanced mortgage, reverse mortgage program.
Thank you for that, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Last question from Ms. Jane Magudayaw. Ms. Jane. Miss Jane, are you there? Okay, anyway, I think that's it. I know both of our speaker has to move their meetings, their important meeting, just to be with us this afternoon. So again, thank you so much, Attorney Cabling and Mr. Rabat, for joining us this afternoon, for being such a great resource speaker and for giving us a few hours of very valuable time. Jerwin, I think Attorney Patrick will just get the contact details of SHFC and National Home, the point person, because we're getting a lot of messages on who to call. Anyway, that's it. Sir Mars?
Yeah.
Would you like to, or maybe before Sir Mars, may we request both of our speakers, maybe they have final message for all of us developers.
Sino mauna? Si Attorney Cabling.
Mr. Rabat, please go ahead.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you, the Organization of Socialized and Economic Housing Developers Incorporated, for inviting me, as well as, of course, President Nonoy. I think the nickname ni Attorney Cabling is Nonoy. Nonoy Cabling. Tama ba? Tama na ako? Attorney Cabling.
Yes, Nono.
Of our fellow key shelter agency of SHFC, the President of SHFC, to this concluded housing talks, uplift theme in these trying times, the fueling housing finance through government securitization. It is an honor and privilege for me to have this opportunity as NHMFC President to be with the only leading private sector organization with a distinguished national membership in real estate developers. I hope this will only be the first of many opportunities for engagements that we will have as we work as partners in tandem, leading and pushing forward for the improvement and increase in efforts for the development of our socialized and economic housing. So I deeply appreciate your efforts, and I have learned a lot from the inputs and concerns you have raised today. So once again, I likewise hope that you have been either refreshed or enlightened by the programs for securitization. We have shown that we may find fresh and new opportunities from them, and that they may eventually provide us the said fuel to fire up, much needed fuel to fire up the housing finances. So thank you very much once again, and magandang hapon sa ating lahat. Anyway, on the part of NHMFC, if you have further concerns, andyan naman si Vice President Luisa Favila, our securitization group head. So pwede niyo nang sa kanya itanong rin yung mga concerns pa ninyo. And I hope she will give you the contact details of NHMFC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rabat. Anyway, don't worry to all our participants here. Attorney Patrick will email you all for the contact details of both SHFC and National Home Mortgage. We'd like to call on Attorney Cabling.
Maraming salamat po for inviting Social Housing and inviting me to be here this afternoon. And be a very great help for all of us, especially also for SHFC, because we are able to convey to you, to the entire membership of OSHDP, our programs and our need to really strengthen our partnership with you. We need the funds. We will be floating the bonds, and out of the money we can produce from you also in buying our bonds, we will buy also the houses, socialized housing houses, which you could produce for our informal families. So it's really going to be a give and take relationship, and I hope at plus you can use it as compliance. Another form of compliance, the houses you produce, subdivisions you produce for us. So it's an honor for us, and we hope simula ho ito ng ating marami pa pong pwedeng pag-usapan at pagtutulungan, kagaya ng nabanggit kanina. We hope there will be bilateral talks, and the next time we meet here, we'll talk on naman the requirement. We'll discuss naman on the requirements of the BOI. So we hope na hindi kayo magsawa, kasi we really need you. Invite us some more so we could really convey to the public and to everyone, the stakeholders, what we need and what are the programs of the government right now. We are doing our best in the shelter agency, in the government, despite the meager funds being given to us. But you see, we have to provide shelter to the homeless and underprivileged. And I hope you are one with us. And we make that call on you. Magtulungan po tayo para malutas po natin ang problema ng lipunan na sa pagkakaisa lang po at pagtutulungan magagawa yung ating mga adikain at malutas yung problema ng komunidad. Kaya nga po, community program yung sa amin. Ibig sabihin po, kailangan namin ng tulong lahat ng mga miyembro ng komunidad. At isa ho kayo sa pinaka-importanting miyembro ng komunidad. Kaya po, maraming salamat at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you, Attorney Cabling. Well, anyway, we hope this is the first of the many discussions that we as an organization, we commit our support in the government's securitization program. So that's it for the open forum. I would like to call on our chairman, Sir Marcelino Mendoza, for his closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Fiona. And of course, after this, I think we will have a photo opportunity for everybody. Now, we want to thank our forum participants, our sponsors and partners, and of course, our members for joining us this afternoon. Of course, again, our thanks to our esteemed guests, President Rabat, President Cabling, EVP Attorney June Fe, VP Jojo Carandang, SVP Ruben Lasset, of course, the NHMFC VP Luisa Favila. We learned a lot from this forum. And of course, this is a rare, if not unique, occasion that our two resource speakers comes from the ranks of the local government units or LGUs. OSHDP has always believed that local government executives should be at the forefront of the solution of the housing backlog. The housing problem is largely urban and largely local. And our two guests here, of course, know what they're talking about from both the national now and the local point of view. As we understand it, of course, securitization frees the resources which otherwise would have been locked or unused in the different institutions. Instead of waiting 10, 20, 25, 30 years, an institution invested in real estate mortgages, tying up these mortgage assets, can turn these assets now into more loans, or the cycle continues. No, one of our OSHDP members, 8990, even conducted their own securitization. I am pleased to note that buying SHFC and NHMFC bonds serves as alternative compliances to balance housing requirements. This is very much laudable. In this, we balance and even complements the developers' functions on direct production and compliance of housing and government requirements. We will be definitely endorsing these bonds to our members. We view this as a good alternatives, and it will be a choice and business decision on the part of the developers. Our members are a diversified group. One group does the production themselves. There is, of course, the other group that doesn't want to do the production because it is increasingly very hard already to do the production. We all know this very well. The price of land has not continued to, it's always increasing. And there is, of course, the ceiling on the socialized housing, which is giving us a lot of limitations on how to proceed with construction. By way of closing, I wish to thank SHFC and NHMFC for these creative efforts to generate additional funds for socialized and affordable housing and not rely solely on budgetary allocations. But OSHDP, of course, will continue to work for increased budget allocations from our GAA and the national government. Our budgetary allocations for housing are simply too small compared to comparable countries in the world, and we can never solve the housing problem if the national government would not allocate a bigger slice of the pie for housing. With that, I now formally close our forum. Of course, while many of us are already vaccinated, still it is better to keep safe. Thank you, and see you again in our next housing talks. Maybe we can now turn on our, for the picture taking, we can have the pictures taken.
Yes. Please turn on your cameras, everyone. Patrick, you will be the one to take the photo.
Yes po, yes.
Okay.
So turn on your cameras. Let's start na po. For the first page, smile everyone. 1, 2, 3. For the second page, 1, 2, 3. The last page, wait. For the last page, okay. For the last page, 1, 2, 3. That's all po. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
We'll
you.
email
Thank you.
the contact details.
Thank you, President Kabling. Thank you, President Rabat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.